program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into a very exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is a very special guest, Grammy nominee, Cheryl B. Engelhardt. Cheryl, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun.
I was telling you before we got started, I was a little bit starstruck to see your name appear on my calendar. I've been following you for a long time now. Ever since you appeared on Rick Barker's podcast, so many years ago now. But before we get into the Grammy nomination and everything you have coming up this month with some workshops that you are doing, I'd love to just give you the floor and to let you give us a little bit of your backstory.
Well, part of my backstory is that everyone always spells my name wrong, including your ticker.
I can adjust that.
But that honestly though, that is part of my backstory, and it's why there's something about the B I just like hooked on to. Like kids in school would just be like CBE, because nothing else was easy. So look at that, you're fast. Some people take ages to get it right, so thank you. But yeah, I kind of like latched onto that, started my music publishing company. But now I forget what the question was. Backstory. So I've been playing the piano since I was 2. I thought I was going to go be a marine biologist in college, but I always loved singing. I loved being in theater. Music was always like a hobby. So I was taking all these electives while I was studying biology. And my advisor in college was like, why don't you just take these 2 extra courses and you can have a double major, music and biology. And I was like, yeah, sure. I got a job scuba diving for the government doing water quality research after college. And after 6 months, the river we were working on froze, and a friend of mine was like, hey, you have a month downtime because we had a month off. Will you come to Rome, Italy with me? I'm doing a website. He was a website designer. I'm doing a website for this really fancy hotel, and they want to create some videos. And I need some music for those videos. And I want you to help me film them and stuff like that. So I was doing this multimedia stuff for this hotel's website in Rome. And I was like, this is very much more interesting than like being underwater all day long, which sounds way cooler than it is. So that kind of started my track to saying, hey, how can I make a life doing this kind of creative stuff? I moved to New York City, got a job as a messenger. I was an intern at a recording studio. Kind of one thing led to another. And then I'm at a jingle house writing music for commercials, staying late at night, doing my own music, working with a band. I started touring. I ended up leaving the jingle job so I could go do my own freelance composing stuff. And I was kind of like a pop singer songwriter, put out a bunch of albums, figured out licensing, touring, fan funding. I got really dorky with my email list and connecting with my fans after every show. I got really good at making sure that I had a way to connect with someone after we left the venue. And that just seemed really important early on. So I have this great engaged email list. They're ready to jump on whatever project I've got, whether it's crowdfunding a new album or, voting for something on an online contest. So I really got into fan engagement, and I started getting asked to speak at music conferences and answering a lot of really similar questions for other musicians. And instead of just saying, here's what I did that worked, because, everyone's path is so weird and different, I actually went out and started to get trained in being a coach so that I could really better answer whatever was blocking each individual person. So I kind of got really into working with other musicians and helping them step into whatever results they wanted to create for themselves. Fast forward a bunch of years, I got some composing residencies. I started doing some choral work and orchestral work, and started creating some just outside of the box albums that kind of landed in the new age realm. They were getting #1 on iTunes. They were doing really well. I'm like, am I a new age artist? Then the pandemic hits. I wrote a musical with a best friend. He passed away during the pandemic. I got on a train at the end of 2022 in the winter and just went across country. I just needed to grieve and get out of my space. And I wrote an electronic ambient album on that train, and that got me my first Grammy nomination in New Age ambient. And I've just been creating as an artist. I really feel like that is home for me. I can bring in my weird classical stuff. I can do esoteric lyrics if I want, which is a critique I got of my pop music that was a little too the lyrics weren't quite pop enough. But in new age, I really feel at home there. And so this is my fourth album, just came out. It's called According to the Moon. It's a collaboration with an Australian artist, Gem, and that just got a Grammy nomination in new age ambient and chant. So here we are today.
Absolutely incredible, Cheryl. It's I was introduced to you mostly through your In the Key of Success business and helping other artists and knowing that, and not really knowing a lot of your own backstory and your personal story of even coming to music, right? Kind of getting the music major as an aside to the, the real job or the real degree, and then just going, no, I would much rather do this. Yeah. I think when we all start off with that dream of playing music, it's because of that excitement. But so many people kind of fall off because of the work that it truly takes to make it in the industry. And especially with the industry changing as much as it is now, obviously AI, huge topic in so many ways, that is, it is, topping charts, and the money has left. And I don't think there's a lot, the jingle writer thing. I got to imagine most companies are learning how to use Suno to write their jingles now. And where there was a lot of niche places in music for people to make a living, not necessarily being a performer, a lot of those are kind of going away. But you have experience in just the full breadth of what the music business is. It's so interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting me take up. So I was like, can I do this in a nutshell? I'm getting old, so the story gets longer.
It's just a big nutshell. It was still pretty condensed.
Oh, it's funny. Well, thank you.
And now, obviously, sorry to hear about your friend that's, that you wrote the musical with. That's so, and you need time, especially, you don't write a musical with someone that you're just like, oh yeah, we kind of know each other. Obviously this person meant a lot to you, and you needed the time. And I love that what came out of that time is now the new music and the, the recognition of that music and bringing it out. And yeah, I mean, who wants to be a pop artist these days anyway? So I think new age is a great avenue for you.
Thank you. I feel very at home there now. Then we're approaching almost a decade of just sort of really owning, like, I'm a new age artist. I studied this in school, like the electronic, pioneers of the 60s and 70s. And like, I've always been a new age person, even when I was like writing piano songs when I was like 6, 7, 8. I remember my piano teacher saying, well, that's not a sonatina form. Like, it doesn't go back to the ABA pattern. And it's because I was writing new age music. Dan Wilson, I was in a great songwriting thing with him in the late 2000s. He was the one that was like, Dan Wilson's written like a bajillion hits, like Closing Time, every month, everybody knows all those songs. But he was like, yeah, it's great music. The chords great. The production's great. He's like, the lyrics, like, what are you really saying? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's too esoteric for pop. And I was like, noted. And then I tried to like dumb it down, and I was like, maybe this just isn't the right genre for me. And it took a long time to actually come to that realization, and that whole, like, I don't belong here. I hear a lot of artists say that, like, they're not sure where they belong, whether it's a scene in their local community or just literally how to describe their music. But I think that when you have that thought, I don't belong here, I like to follow it up with, I just haven't found where I do belong. Because I do truly believe everyone has a place to belong, literally, digitally, wherever that may mean for you.
Right. And for me, we won the Content Creator of the Year award from the Midwest Country Music Organization, but I've never considered myself a country artist until I moved from, I grew up in the Black Hills of South Dakota, which we have the Sturgis Motorcycle Rally every year. So it's very like classic rock and, a little bit of reggae feel. It's in the mountains, right? Yep. So it kind of has that vibe to it. Well, when we moved to my wife's hometown in southeastern South Dakota, it is all corn and soybean fields. And it is like, you better learn some Garth Brooks, right? You better be able to bust out an Alan Jackson tune. So I started to bring in more of that, country covers, and a few of my songs kind of ride that. I used to call my style rockabilly reggae funk, and that was too much of a mouthful. So now I call it modern gypsy rock, which is still fitting. I grew up on bands, obviously your Marshall Tucker and Bob Seger, but I was a huge Deadhead growing up. My parents took me to a Grateful Dead show when I was 3 years old. And I mean, they're playing country rock before it was country rock, right? So a lot of the songs that I end up writing as a younger person, and they have all these different influences, and I felt exactly that way, is that I don't fit in anywhere, but I fit in everywhere at the same time. And really that spurred me on to creating the scene projects, which are, it's kind of like, what's your scene? Everyone fits in here. We interview everyone from every genre, and where that maybe hinders us because we're not niche, right? It allows us to connect with everyone and to throw it all at the wall and kind of see what sticks. And I've equated it to, it's like a big mansion, and there's lots of rooms inside of that mansion, and there's all these different ballrooms that you can go into, and everybody is welcome everywhere. And I feel like music now and music listeners now are much more outside of the box than they were even 10 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
New age music. Can you describe what is it? Does it cover a huge range of sounds and feelings? And I guess I wouldn't, I don't like to categorize music in the first place, because especially now it crosses over so many different boundaries. What does it sound like for some of our listeners that, are interested in actually checking out the music and seeing what this sounds like?
Totally. It's like the new age old question of what is new age. But I think historically it's a little more experimental. It's a little less formless. It can definitely have nature sounds and field recordings. I think there, as much as people hate to categorize, human beings actually love to categorize. We really love to put things in boxes. And, we've got, how can you search for genres on playlists on the DSPs and, Billboard charts and Grammy Awards? Like, there are all sorts of different categorizations and definitions. And so the one, the category technically in the Recording Academy is New Age, Ambient, and Chant. They've kind of like bunched together a lot of things that can technically sound like apples to oranges. We're trying to combine this stuff. But for me, Enya is New Age, right? And she did a really good job crossing over into the mainstream market, for sure. You've got Orinoco Flow, and did these beautiful albums in the 90s and early 2000s that kind of were able to cross over. There's a cinematic feel to it. A lot of her stuff is lyrical, but some of it is not. And same thing with my new age music. This particular album, According to the Moon, has vocals, but we're using the vocals as almost like another synthesizer, and layering and kind of using it as an instrument inside of creating these textures. So I think new age music in general has a healing quality and an intention behind it. It's what you hear most often when you go into like spas. There's a lot of research around frequencies and higher and lower and different kinds of tunings that might resonate differently with the body. So there's a little bit of science behind it, which of course my background as a biological researcher loves to dork out on. And there's actually some heart rate related tempo things happening in our album. So that all being said, I think new age is designed for a little bit more of the way I look at it as a composer. And I actually bring this into all of my composing, whether it's for a choir or for a meditation program, is my music is designed to provide a platform for the listener to do whatever they need to do to process whatever they need to process. If you listen to The Passenger, the album that I made on the train, it's not a grief album. You don't listen to it, you're like, oh my God, this is like all minor, sad, depressing, even though that was my experience at the time. The idea is that through my experience of creating this, you're going to get to experience whatever you want, versus like you listen to a Katy Perry song, you're like, all right, we're getting pumped up for this race, or we're going to like some country song, like some music, some genres dictate the emotion. And I think that that's lovely, especially like, I want to feel differently than I do now. I'm going to go listen to this intentionally. Like, I need a good cry, I'm going to go listen to Sarah McLachlan, right? But I think this music that I like creating inside of new age is like, what do I need to process right now? And what's a good tool to help me access that for myself and not dictate it? And I think that that's the core of new age music for me, at least.
I love it. New age music. It's what your massage therapist room sounds like.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. When that's on the chiller side. I think when I write new age music, like I like to have key changes, and there's string quartets on this, and there is a cinematic element and like a kind of a building you up so that you can actually get to the thing that you really need to face. And, I think that you can have busier music that you probably wouldn't hear in a spa, but I think a lot of it would be appropriate for that, for sure. You're not wrong.
Fantastic. And I think when you brought up Enya, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I just, not being someone who is, honestly, I'm not even that big of an music listener, which
a lot of
sounds
musicians,
crazy.
I'm not either. My husband always laughs that when we're on long car rides, and he's like, what do you want to listen to? I was like, nothing. There's always something going on in here. I don't need.
Yeah.
And I'm also a little scared that like something subconsciously will like get stuck, especially if I'm in like album writing mode. I don't want to like plagiarize anything that gets in as an earworm that I don't realize later is an earworm. I'm always like really scared of that, like something really cool, like latching onto it in a way that, so I'm always just like, nothing. It's nice to be quiet for a hot second. And he's like, you're like the only musician I know. I was like, well, you don't know a lot of musicians because you're not in the music industry, but a lot of musicians I know are like you and I, were just like, I don't consume a ton of music unless I'm in a place where I'm like really wanting to listen. Like I have some like chill out playlists and things like that when I'm like working. And, but yeah, other than that, yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that I think you see it with a lot of musicians. A lot of other musicians I taught, they're podcast listeners. They're like I am. I listen to a ton of podcasts, a lot of sports. I love sports, so I'm listening. I'm
an audiobook listener. If the audiobook has someone reading with any kind of accent, British accent, Australian, like I'm listening to it. That's my thing. It's funny.
No, it's great. I love accents. That always gets me, right? So I never even thought about audiobooks to kind of scratch that itch a little bit, right? You get a nice long book read with someone, and to turn off the voice in your head sometimes is nice. And I think we can both attest to that it's always running full speed, probably over revving a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about the train. I love traveling by train. I've taken it from Portland through to North Dakota before, fell asleep in Spokane, woke up in Glacier National Park, going along the Columbia River Gorge. So I've been fortunate enough to do that. Now, did you sit up in like one of the viewing cars most of the time, absorbing it? And what was the trip like?
Yeah. So I went from New York to Chicago, changed there, and then I went through the Rocky Mountains. I started on January 22nd of 2022. So the Colorado River was frozen. So literally the train was like going along the river, and you'd see like, I saw probably about 100 elk running along the train, like on the frozen river. Got over to San Francisco, Sacramento, switched trains, went down to LA, stayed with my sister a couple of days, didn't touch the music. And then I went south, kind of from the Southwest back to Chicago over 4. So it was 5 days out and then 4 days back. And I did the entire album in those 9 days. And then I mixed it when I got back. I mixed it myself. And I had my own room. They called them a roomette. We could like sit in the day or like turn it into a bed at night. There's 2 beds. I just kept it in the bed. I was like, why don't I not just like sit on this bed and like look out, and you have this huge window. It was just the end of COVID. So they had like a lot of restrictions about like there's a dining car. So we had like staggered times. You had to pick your time. So it wasn't too crowded, which was actually really lovely. A lot of people say they go on these train trips, and like, I met so many cool people. I met 0 people because I just didn't want to talk to anyone. Like had my mask on when I was like going, walking around and whatever. And there were observation cars. If you go to my website, cbemusic.com, and you scroll down a little bit, there's a making of like a 5-minute video that shows like what the room looks like. It shows all the things. I think even in that video, maybe there's a little bit of like, there's a shower, and like showering on the train is like next level risk taking. I like when it's moving, like it was the thing. So, but yeah, it was a really cool experience. It was like, I brought a microphone. I'm like, I'm going to get all the choo choo sounds. No, I never used the microphone. It was so loud, just like a loud rumble the whole time. All hours of the day. Like it's never quiet. It was interesting. There's so much loud rumble that it kind of got normalized for me over the 9 days that I got back to do my mixing. And I was like, where are all those cool, like low rumbly synths that I put in? There weren't any. It was just the train sound. So then I'm like stuck with no low end on the entire album. And I'm like, I was committed to not doing any additional production or composing or anything once I got off the train. So I was doing some like fancy octave double plugins in the mix process to kind of like bring up my low end that I thought I I thought I was hearing through all the synths and stuff I was using. I had 4 different headphones, noise canceling stuff, but somehow I thought I had all this low end, and I got back and I was like, oh, it was just the train. Got it.
Yeah, the vibration just rolling around
Yeah.
and that constant chug, like you said, it never stops.
Yeah.
You're
And the
just
rooms,
moving.
the overnight rooms are closer to the engine. So you get the extra, all the noise coming from. It's a loud experience. Like, and as a light sleeper, like it was a lot. I mean, it was cool because, I got to literally watch the full moon as I'm like, I'm not falling asleep. So there was a full moon during the time, which was kind of cool. The moon has sort of always been a theme for my new age stuff. And it just feels very nice that this new album, According to the Moon, is named after the moon. Finally, I was like, finally, she got a title to credit after being present for so much of my creation process. Yeah.
Just incredible stuff. Now, you mentioned the Grammy nomination for this new album. This is your second nomination now. Does the second one feel different than that first time getting recognized in that way?
Oh yeah. So much is different this time. The passenger, I had a couple of featured people, like I literally from the train sent a file to a friend of mine. I was like, hey, can you play violin on this? Hey, can you do a vocal thing on this? And they sent it back. So it was still happening in the time of the album process, creation process. But other than their sort of features, it was not a collaborative process, like project in any means, but this was, I mean, I wrote with Jem, we co-produced everything. We brought in a producer, Lonnie Park, who's incredible. And he kind of took our voices as individual artists and did this 1 + 1 = 5. It's kind of the only way I can describe his production, and added a lot of stuff. And then, we have a mix, he mixed it, and then we have master. And then we had Dallas String Quartet, who played on my first album. And then I've gone and written for them specific pieces. And we've had this long-term collaboration. So they're on a lot of the albums. I was writing some more ambient string arrangements for them. And then they did some improvisation. So there are a lot more people involved that like have skin in the game this time. And before it was just me. Right. So that in and of itself is wildly different. And, not unlike the passenger, but that was so bittersweet. Like my friend Kevin, who was my best friend, and we had worked 6 years on this musical, who had passed away. He was going to be my date that year to the Grammys. And so there was this super bittersweet thing for that nomination. This one, we worked on this album. It was kind of a different process. Instead of 9 days, we took 1.5 years, just different. We didn't know we were going to do an album. It started with 1 track for this one particular company, and then another meditation company we're going to do 3 more for. And it was just like, oh, this is easy. If we did like 6 more, we'd have an album, So it was kind of this organic process. And it was during a time last year when I was going through like personal stuff and relationships, and my mom got cancer, and there's all this other heavy stuff in life. And I'm like, oh, this is hard, but having all this accountability and having a writing partner that you kind of committed to, and a producer that you're paying, and all this, it's like, okay, I have to get up and get dressed and get on the phone and show up. So I feel like this is a different kind of, not bittersweet, but more like, oh, it was all worth it. It all got us here. Like that processing of all that hard stuff that I'm now on the other side of, gratefully, is in the album, but not in the same way as the other one. So that feels similar, but also different. So yeah, there's kind of like a relief about it, of like, oh, it was worth something. Not that it wasn't, like we released it and it's, doing really well on streams and playlists and stuff, but it's an extra little like nod from the universe of like, I see you, like, I see that you went through that process. But all of it feels really different, really, really different, especially coming out of COVID. The first nomination, it was a lot of telling people about it digitally, because there weren't a lot of in-person things going on. And now people are throwing holiday parties, and there's more community in person. So it's showing up in a different way to just get the word out that it exists, and that I'm hoping people take a second to listen to it and consider it,
Yeah, it's fantastic. And obviously you've built up this, this career mostly on, I would say, recorded music. Now, do you still perform live quite a bit during the year as well? I know you're speaking engagements, and you have, obviously, In the Key of Success, I'm sure keeps you busy with your mentorship, but do you still find time to play live and to perform?
Every once in a while. I mean, I used to tour like 100 shows a year with a band for about 6 years. I've toured 7 times in Switzerland and all over the place. Recently, I've been like more when I'm showing up, I'm doing something with an orchestra or performing with a choir. I do sing with choirs that support really amazing artists. I've sung in a choir supporting Sting and Pentatonics and, you know, all sorts of cool things. So doing my own music live, like the new age stuff is such an interesting process. It's so much about the creation process for me. And I know there are people that like do circuits of performing at yoga festivals and meditation retreats and stuff. And I just don't, I mean, to stand there and like press a button and press play on something and then add like one instrument on top of this like textured built thing, that doesn't feel like how I would want to perform. I much rather get on stage and make a difference and an impact speaking about something that is going to resonate with the listeners. And like, I have a couple songs I pepper into my talks occasionally, but yeah, it feels like I've shifted from needing to be seen in that way, which I think it was definitely like an ego thing for a while. Like not being the cool kid in high school and being like, now I'm in a band, and now it's not a band anymore. So yeah, I'm not performing live as much unless there's a really unique opportunity for me to create something for that audience, which I will do. But yeah, it's showing up, being on stage and performing is taking on a different meaning for me right now.
Yeah, and I mean, with new age music, and as much as I'm sure your music has evolved over the years, and including more pieces, right? That you would almost need an orchestra to perform some of this stuff live,
Right.
where it's not just pushing a button and kind of like, you know, being behind the keyboard a little bit. Which
Yeah.
who knows, man? We'll see the CBE orchestra out there one day. That would be pretty entertaining stuff too.
That
Do you
would be
feel,
fun.
yeah, do you feel like it's more gratifying with the team that you have with this second nomination and this new album, because it took so many pieces and so many people's energy working collectively, rather than just, you know, you on a train and putting all of you into one thing? Is it more gratifying to do that now with your team?
It's definitely not more gratifying, but I also don't think it's less. I'm not. It's just different. It just feels. It just feels like two very different things. I felt like the music for this album, like when we were making it, I was like, this is special. This feels special. Like I knew that the collaboration was really magical. I knew bringing in Lonnie was like leveling it up in ways that we hadn't even anticipated. And having a live string quartet on ambient music is not like a normal thing, I feel like, in that it just, yeah, I just felt like the sound is really full and like does something without being too, so yeah, it felt really, and it was such a longer process that I think just knowing like, yeah, we're creating something special and feeling that it's special. It's nice to have it. It's not like, oh, this was, yeah, there's some kind of like very calming effect about it, versus when I found out with a passenger, I was actually at a meditation retreat and I found out, someone came up to me and was like, I just found out you got congratulations on your Grammy nomination. And I hadn't watched it yet because I was like, I'll watch it at the end of the day after this long meditation. And so I just sat through the next meditation. I was like crying and giggling and laughing. People were like, are you okay? I was like, you know, it was like 2000. I had such huge emotions, like huge emotions. It was really unexpected. And this was kind of like this calming, like, well, first of all, I've been here before. And so it was in my realm of possibility already, and it hadn't been before. So that entering into that new space of a Grammy nomination is now possible. Like that is a different, you know, that is a level up, right? And here I'm there already because it's already happened. So yeah, it's very more, I don't know, I just felt like I'm a lot more, and it's also the work I've done in the last 3 years through all this stuff for myself. I went through a lot of panic and anxiety attack issues, and like I've done so much work to come on the other side of that. So I think just in general, my nervous system is just way chiller. So everything just kind of feels chiller, and that might be because I have this team and it's not all on me, and it wasn't because of me, all of me. I don't know if that answered your question. I don't know. Yeah,
it came close enough. Cheryl, I don't want to keep you. You're such an incredibly busy woman. I'm so grateful to have spent a little bit of your year with you. Such an exciting year at that. Congratulations to you on the Grammy nomination here. Congratulations to your whole team. I hope this is the time that you get to win and you get to stand up on that stage and to say all of your thank yous, and hopefully take up all the time and they have to play you off the stage with their music. And I hope
you know, my collaborators will also get to speak. So I will be the concise, quick one, and then they won't have to play us off. But thank you
Well,
so much. This is great.
I'm so happy for you. You deserve it. You've been working so hard for so long to empower other musicians and artists. And we didn't get a lot of time today to talk about In the Key of Success, but I'd love to have you back after the awards show and after a big win, and to have you talk about it and more about the process and how you can help others to maybe replicate that process for their own music, and we can pick it
Yeah.
up from there. So good luck
Yeah,
to
there's
you at the
definitely
Grammys.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, I'll just end with this. There is something about being really specific with what you want and then making sure you have room for it. So that's the one thing I will give you at the end of the year. I always do this complete and create workshop. It's free. It's for musicians to kind of take all the crap that they did do and didn't do this year and then make some space to really get clear on what is it they want to bring in and cause for the next year. So if anyone wants to pop onto that, you can go to inthekey.co/complete and you can register and it's free. So that's and that really, I go through my entire process for anything that I'm going after. I use this exact kind of model to plop it in and say, let's go get this.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for a little bit of your time today. And Cheryl B. Engelhardt, thank you for being part of the scene.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.